I grew up in the southernmost part of India in a state called Kerala in a small town. And in my childhood, I always wanted to become a journalist. So that introduced me to the world of newspapers from the age of 5, 6. And later, towards when my seventh and eighth standard, I started getting into, got to know about the internet and the email. And I got so excited about that, started building websites. And by grade 10, I created my first internet portal. Now, having born in a middle-class parents whose aspirations for their child was to go to an engineering and have a normal job, I realized that, okay, probably I wanted to do something on the internet space because I got so excited. And, but my parents was not really supportive of that for obvious reasons. And at the age of 17, I ran away from my home to a place called Trivandrum. It's the capital city of Kerala, 300 kilometers away from my place. And I landed in the city with just 1 rupee in my hand. And I realized that, okay, now I had to survive. Probably I need a shelter. And initially I slept in the railway stations for the first few weeks. And then I found a temple where they used to give a free, full-fledged meal as a part of their offering to the devotees and also for the dinner. And I realized that I can also sleep in that place. So I continued to sleep in that place for the next 2 to 3 years while building an internet platform called IndiaFirst.net in 2001. I got the support of 3 of my friends who were doing their engineering. So they used to support me occasionally. And while I started building IndiaFirst.net, that's when the mobile penetration was happening. We have got $10 mobile phones launched by Reliance. And I started working towards value-added services on SMS while still in the temple. And one of the journalists got, he got interest. He found it very curious about how he is building like a startup by sleeping out of the temple. And he actually published a story about me on the newspaper called The Hindu. That led to the attention of a media group called Asianet, which is South India's one of the largest TV network. So the CEO finally got in touch with me through the journalist and asked me to present the pitch to them pitch to them, and they finally decided to do an investment in the company. So that's my first break after that 4 years. And while I moved to Asianet, they gave me like a interesting problem to solve. They have like 1 million cable subscribers, and they asked like, can you build a mobile payment service for our customers, because we have a TV channel network, we have a broadband network. And that was my first brush towards financial services, and launched a mobile payment platform called NextPay, which didn't succeeded. And that's when, after 2 years, I moved out, because the thing of once you become an entrepreneur, the bug always is there with you to do something. So I moved out, again without any savings at that point of time, and started a platform called CashNext to solve for the financial inclusion challenges. And this is the time when I met with my co-founder, Mabel. She was trying to do a biometric payment platform called Touch to Pay, and she happens to read about my story, which was published on New York Times. And then I told, okay, we have the same vision, why don't we actually join hands? So we both moved to Bangalore, which is the Silicon Valley of India. And we came to the city without, again, like the same way, I didn't have any savings. She also didn't have any savings. We didn't, again, had a place to sleep. So we figured out ways in which, how we can actually survive each day. We took a service apartment, almost lived on a $1 a day for the next 6 months. And we started actually pitching our ideas to investors. Finally, after 6 to 8 months, we launched the product. We ran into a lot of regulatory challenges in the India market, and this later got acquired by Latin American company. And post the acquisition, launched an NFC issuance platform called Nativity. Now, we built that product based on the market research reports which we had, saying that, okay, NFC is going to be big, and there is a need for a trusted service manager between the telcos and the banks, and that was the initial idea. We had a 70-member team, and 8 months later, we realized that probably there is only less than 0.05% of the phones which have like NFC capability, and the idea you're actually working is not really suited for them. We tried to pivot, and I had to shut down that venture. Now, that was time when I was like thinking about myself, you don't have a formal education. Now you have to take up a job. Who will give you a job? So, because there was always the impression that, okay, if you really need to apply or get into any corporate, that you need to have like a college degree. And here, leave alone the college degree, you just like have a basic school education. So I started writing to the CEOs of other companies on LinkedIn. And at that point, the CEO of Ashish Kashyap, who was leading the Naspers operations in India, they were setting up a payment gateway. So he looked at like, okay, you have actually built something on the payment space, you know inside out of it. And my pitch to him was like, as an entrepreneur, I had actually tried everything, right from the, creating NDAs to legal things to doing partnerships to products. And he told like, come and join me. And that's how I joined as part of PayU, part of the initial 3-member team heading products for them. And later PayU went on to become one of the largest payment processor in the country. And after a few years at PayU, then I moved to another corporate called OnMobile Global. And after that, I really decided that, okay, now again, I wanted to do something on the entrepreneurial space. Launched a Stripe-like payment gateway called Switch in India. Now, again, like the angel investor who actually committed the funds for this, he backed out at the last moment. By the time we had like a 10, 15-member team. And while the product was really good and we were getting a lot of startups using the platform, the challenge was like, we were not really, we were finding it difficult to survive to the extent that we introduced a subscription and we will ask like each of the team members who want to have the bills coming today for your loans or your EMIs, like the subscription money comes to you first, basically. That's how actually we survived. And that's the time when I met with Amrish, who is currently the CEO of Pine Labs, and he was running Citrus Payments along with Jiten. And while we were talking about my business idea, and I was talking about how I'm actually struggling to raise my funds, he told like, come on board, join Citrus Payments. And I know you will always wanted to become an entrepreneur, but give your 2 years to Citrus. And definitely whenever you are going to start your next venture, I'll be the first to actually take a bet on you. I moved to Citrus, helped them launch a new vertical, grew it up, and later this got acquired by PayU for $100 million, and I was back in PayU. And by around 2017, one day Amrish came to me and asked me, Anish, what are you doing right now? I told like I'm currently contemplating few ideas, but I'm still with PayU. By the time Amrish was the CEO of PayU post-acquisition by Citrus. And he told me, like, remember that what I told you 2 years back, if you have to start something, I should be the first one to write a check to you. And I told him about the idea of how I wanted to solve for the business banking challenges of SMEs. And both Amrish and his co-founder, Jiten, wrote the first check. And that's how I started a platform called Open, which helps small businesses to automate their finances. And last May, we raised our Series D round and become the 100th unicorn in India. But now, when I look back the last 20 years of journey, the few things which I always look forward was, what I actually realized is that during the first 10 years of my period, there was actually nothing for me to build. For example, there was days like when you actually look at like how do you actually survive the next day. But one thing I realized is that one thing leads to another. You started doing something, you have your failures, and even the failures are the stepping stones of your stepping stones that actually help you move forward. So it's very important to be like, if you're passionate about your dream or your idea, then automatically it will actually lead to another. Secondly, for many of us who wanted to be entrepreneurs, their biggest failure is that what if I fail? But one thing I realized that, okay, once you become an entrepreneur, it's more valuable than the education, the qualification, the experience that you get. Because when I looked at PayU, what they saw in me was, okay, hey, this guy has experience in multiple domains. So you always have, as an entrepreneur, you always have a safety net. Even if you fail, there would be companies which would be ready to hire you probably at a 3x salary than a normal person. So that's the biggest safety net out there. Third, it's very important to have people along with you in this journey. Like Mabel, who joined me as a co-founder in CashNext. She was my co-founder in all the other 4 startups as well. And after 2 startups, I got married to her. And we also have 2 other co-founders. But apart from the co-founders, the initial 20-25 member people, they're the ones who would always be there with me in my previous startups and the company. So it's also very important to take along the people. And I feel like these are the few things which I wanted to actually share with the audience over here. Thank you.